Nnamdi Kanu in trouble as the wife reportedly sick. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this channel. Of course, this is about perspective, your domain for political trends and unfiltered analysis. Today, we dive deep into one of the most pressing and emotional stories affecting Nigeria and the entire Igbo nation. The continued detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. This story is not just about one man, it's about justice, political promises, and insecurity in the southeast, and the silence of powerful international players who many had hoped would intervene. Let's break this down in details. In recent days, troubling reports have surfaced about the failing health of Nnamdi Kanu's wife, Uchechi Kanu. She has been described as being seriously ill, and this has raised fresh concern among supporters of the Biafra movement. For many, her health condition is not just a personal tragedy, but a symbolic representation of the heavy toll that this prolonged detention of her husband has had on the families and communities connected to Kanu. Supporters believe her suffering is yet another reminder of the urgency to resolve this crisis once and for all, either politically or legally. Then, on the legal front, Kanu's case continues to drag in Nigeria courts. His lawyer, Aloy Ejimakor, recently took to his Twitter handle, releasing a deep emotional video where he lamented the inhumane treatment of his client Nnamdi Kanu.
So today I'm wearing two hats. I'm speaking on behalf of Nnamdi Kanu. I'm also speaking on my own behalf. My name is Aloy Ejimakor. I'm the special counsel to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and the indigenous people of Biafra. The man, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, is well known. He's everywhere. He's on Wikipedia. What brought him to limelight was the formation of the indigenous people of Biafra in the United Kingdom in 2012. Simultaneously, he also founded Radio Biafra. And these two organizations were aimed at one thing: liberation for the people of Biafra, or restoration of the former Republic of Biafra that went defunct in 1970. The right to self-determination is a right that is guaranteed internationally, domestically, and continentally. So the formation of IPOB did not break any law. Not laws of United Kingdom, not international law, not Nigerian law. But guess what? When Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, who was born in Nigeria, but who acquired British citizenship later on, came to Nigeria in October 2015, the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, which had come to power in May, decided to arrest him. He was not arrested between 2012 and 2015 because the government of the day at that time understood that self-determination is not a crime. But the government that came into power in 2015 in May decided that self-determination is going to be treated as a criminal activity. So he was arrested in Lagos. He was charged for treason, also for insulting the president and illegal importation of radio equipment. 3 charges. The treason one, they split it into 2, treason by himself and treason by conspiracy. This thing went on from 2015 until April 2017, when he was eventually granted bail. So he was detained for nearly 18 months. After granting him bail, he returned to his ancestral home in the southeastern part of Nigeria, and he was enjoying his bail when suddenly, between 10 September and 14 September 2017, the Nigerian army, without any justification whatsoever, levied lethal, massive military operations against Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's ancestral home. That day, he was sitting at home with with so many people, his family members, including his 2 elderly parents. The attack was lightning, it was a bleakridge, it was massive, and it was not the type of an attack you will expect a national military force to levy on a civilian location. At the end of the day, 28 people lost their lives. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu sustained injuries. His parents sustained injuries as well, but somehow, by the grace of God, they all managed to escape. From there, the rest is history. And because there was a national and international manhunt for him by the security forces, which rules of engagement was to shoot, not to maim. If you see Nnamdi Kanu, if you encounter him anywhere, shoot not to maim, but shoot to kill on 10 September, but they didn't succeed. But it went on, they went on in a manhunt. So Nnamdi Kanu was forced to flee the municipal boundaries of Nigeria in search of safe haven overseas. Eventually, in May 2021, he settled in Kenya. He entered Nairobi and settled in Kenya somewhere. He never knew that Nigerian security forces, the international branch of it, were laying in wait for him. They laid an ambush for him. So on 19th June 2021, he drove himself to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on a personal errand. As soon as he drove into the parking lot and alighted from his vehicle, several well-armed security men suspected to be of a mixture of Nigerian and Kenyan security forces swooped on him, grabbed him, abducted him, and put him forcibly in a vehicle and drove away. Well, they didn't take him to the police station. They didn't take him to immigration because he was a foreigner. He should have been taken to immigration. They didn't take him to any official law enforcement facility. They took him to a secret location in Nairobi, a non-official secret location. So in effect, they disappeared him. And they kept him at that secret location for a whole 8 days. And those 8 days he endured horrendous torture. All these are matters of record between the various tribunals and courts before whom this matter has been brought. I cannot begin to give you all the details. Horrendous torture in violation of basic human rights, in violation of the laws of Kenya, Nigeria, and the international community. When Nnamdi Kanu was abducted on 19th June 2021, the proper thing that should have been done is to take him to a police station, from there to a court. And then if you wanted him back in Nigeria, you subject him to what is called extradition proceedings. This is a basic tenet of the law that you see in the laws of any nation. Kenya has an extradition act to which Mazi Nnamdi Kanu should have been subjected. But guess what? They didn't do that. They rather disappeared him for 8 days, tortured him to their heart's content. And on 27th June, they secretly brought him out from this location and took him through the back doors, evading Kenyan immigration, direct to the tarmac of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Nairobi, where a private plane was waiting. They bundled him into the plane, chained him to the chair, and everything. He endured 5-6 hours flight from Nairobi to Kenya in the most excruciating circumstances. They arrived in Nigeria late in the evening and the plane flew back to Nairobi. They took him to the headquarters of the National Intelligence Agency in Abuja, where he spent the first night with all the lights left on to assure his maximum discomfort. The following day, they transferred him to the headquarters of Directorate of State Security in Abuja. And on the third day, they brought him before the Federal High Court in Abuja. The Federal High Court was well aware that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has counsel of record. It was an open case, it wasn't a new case, a pre-existing case. But the Federal High Court decided to conduct the arraignment in violation of his constitutional right to counsel. And that arraignment led to the indefinite detention with which we are struggling today. Anyways, taking you back a few steps, the little military invasion of 2017 was not unrequited, judicially speaking. I took the matter before two tribunals, or a tribunal and a court. First, I took it to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, which rendered a decision in March 2018 condemning the action and calling it a violation of the African Charter. And they wrote to the President of Nigeria, they wrote a letter to the President of Nigeria requesting him or directing him. They used diplomatic language, but the decision was there that what you did is wrong, so you need to roll it back. You need to reverse everything you have done, which includes declaration of IPOB as a terrorist organization and hounding their members as criminals. The African Commission held that what Nigerian government was doing was persecution, not prosecution. That the IPOB and its members simply possess an inconvenient political opinion which the Nigerian government was seeking to suppress by means of punishment of some sort. And they asked or directed Nigerian government to reverse itself. Nigerian government never did. Rather, it escalated. Well, subsequently, I went to a local court, a high court in Abia State in eastern Nigeria. I sued the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Nigerian Army, and other parties who were confederates in that attack of September 2017. And in January 2022, fortunately for us, we won. The High Court made an order. The High Court reached a judgment that what happened to Nnamdi Kanu in September 2017 was a flagrant violation of his constitutional right to life and constitutional right to his privacy. And the court proceeded to make an order bring the federal government of Nigeria or Federal Republic of Nigeria to pay him a compensation of 1 billion Nigerian naira, which is over $1 million US. The court also ordered the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the President of Nigeria to issue a public apology to be published in 3 national Nigerian newspapers to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. None of this has happened. So we kept that aside. So when they brought Mazi Nnamdi Kanu forcibly from Kenya without extradition proceedings, I characterized it an act of extraordinary rendition. Initially, there was a misunderstanding, a broad, widespread misunderstanding by vast majorities of Nigerians who were mouthing the cliche, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu extradited from Kenya. No, that was wrong. It wasn't. I told people it wasn't. It was extraordinarily renditioned or rendered, and that is against international law, Kenyan law, and laws of the Federation of Nigeria. So while his criminal trial was making its way slowly at Abuja, with all the several amendments the government was bringing, they walked away from treasonable felony, insulting the president, importation of radio equipment, and bam, to terrorism. That's how it happened. And they did this 7 times. 7 amendments. If Nnamdi Kanu was guilty, why is it taking so long to bring him to trial between 2015 and today? That is 8 years. So what he's undergoing is not really a judicial trial. It's a trial by ordeal. Trial by fire. Imprisonment before conviction. They just want to get as many years of jail time out of him as possible because they know that with the evidence available, conviction will be impossible. And that was made worse by the extraordinary rendition, which I took also as a civil violation to a federal high court in Nigeria. And in October 2022, the federal high court came down with a judgment that extraordinary rendition was a violation of his constitutional rights, his fundamental rights, and they awarded him 500 million Nigerian naira. That's about $800,000. So all around, everywhere that this matter has gone to, including in July 2022, before the Human Rights Council at the United Nations, the Human Rights Council, United Nations, came down with an opinion that what happened to Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in Kenya and that brought him to Nigeria is a very grave violation of international law. And they directed that he should be released unconditionally. And of course, the Court of Appeal in Nigeria did come down with a similar judgment in same October 2022, discharging Mazi Nnamdi Kanu of all charges and bearing any further trial of his person in any court in Nigeria as a consequence, as a direct consequence of the extraordinary rendition. So what more can you ask for a man to deserve his freedom? How many have I counted? United Nations, which in this case should be considered a world court. Then you have the Nigerian Court of Appeal, which is the second highest court in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Then you have the Federal High Court, which is the court of first instance at the federal level. And of course, you have the State High Court that awarded him 1 billion Nigerian naira. So between 2015 and today, 8 years and running, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has snagged 4 major victories against the Federal Republic of Nigeria, with Federal Republic of Nigeria winning nothing. What more do you need as stark evidence, affirmative evidence that what is happening here, ladies and gentlemen, is an act of persecution, not prosecution? It's time to end it. On his behalf, I will ask all men and women of goodwill everywhere in the world to speak up. There was this saying about Jews. When they came for the Jew, you said nothing. When they came for the Jew, you said nothing because you're a trade unionist. Then when they came for the trade unionist, you said, well, I'm a scientist. You said nothing. They took the Jew, they took the trade unionist. And then when they came for the scientists, nobody spoke for you. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is a poster boy for all the injustices that a great race, the Igbo people, and their cousins in the former eastern Nigeria have been subjected to since the founding of Nigeria. So how do you fight back? You fight back by telling the system, I want out. I want my own country is not a crime. It does not require a bullet. It doesn't require muscular military law enforcement. What it requires is sitting across the table and talking about it. A lot of nations have been founded on referendum. That's what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and the indigenous people of Biafra were asking for. That led to all this conundrum.
According to him, Nnamdi Kanu's health condition is deteriorating every day, yet the Nigerian government has continued to hold him in DSS custody under very harsh conditions. Ejimakor emphasized that this is not just about law, but about basic human rights: the right to life, the right to health, and the right to fair hearing. Talking about the political promises, recalling that when Kanu was first detained, several Igbo political leaders, governors, and stakeholders publicly assured Nigerians that they were working towards a political solution to the matter. They claimed that dialogue, negotiation, and behind-the-scene diplomacy would eventually lead to his release. But fast forward to today, those promises appear to have faded. Many leaders have distanced themselves completely, fearful of political backlash. 2027 political bid. For the common man in the Southeast, this feels like a betrayal. People ask, how can leaders abandon one of their own, especially when they promised otherwise? Meanwhile, insecurity in the Southeast has worsened. The rise of unknown gunmen, kidnappers, sit-at-home orders, and violent clash have made life unbearable for ordinary citizens. Whether one supports IPOB or not, there is no denial that the situation has spiraled. Some analysts believe that Kanu's prolonged detention fuels this crisis, as his absence creates a vacuum exploited by criminal elements. The question remains, is the Nigerian government indirectly empowering insecurity by refusing to resolve Kanu's matter? In the diaspora, particularly in the United States, some Igbo-American veterans, former army officers who have served in the US military, have issued warnings to the Nigerian government. Their message was blunt: if anything happens to Nnamdi Kanu, the consequences will not be favorable for the Nigerian's image internationally. They reminded in Abuja that Kanu is not just a Nigerian issue anymore, but a global one, with millions of supporters across the world. Their involvement has brought fresh international pressure and shows just how far-reaching this matter has become. Another interesting angle is the United Kingdom. Remember, Nnamdi Kanu is a British citizen. Yet, despite his continuous detention and allegation of torture, the UK government has maintained a deafening silence. To many observers, this silence is not just disappointing, but suspicious. Some believe it's driven by diplomatic interests, oil and trade ties with Nigeria and its government, and the reluctance to interfere in what London consider Nigeria's internal affairs. But for Igbo community and Kanu supporters, Britain's silence is a betrayal of its duty to protect its own citizens. So when you put all of this together, a sick wife, a detained husband, political leaders backing out of promised solutions, growing insecurity in the southeast, desperate voices rising, and international silence, you get a story that is not only about justice, but about the soul of a people. The Nnamdi Kanu case has moved beyond one man. It is now a litmus test for Nigeria's democracy, its human rights records, and its ability to heal deep ethnic division. So the big question is, will the Nigerian government finally consider a political solution now? Because we've seen some sort of push, but we've also seen that those push have been sabotaged by the same people that are making the move. So will Igbo leaders rediscover the courage to push for what they once promised? And will the international community, especially the UK, finally step in before it's too late? Because we are talking about their own citizens here, no matter what they see. But then, only time will tell. One thing is very clear. The longer this continues, the deeper the wounds in the southeast continue. And the harder it will be to rebuild trust in Nigeria's leadership and unity. To me, this is not just politics. It's about humanity, justice, and the future of the people, a certain ethnicity in this country. Stay tuned because this story is far from over. Let's be honest, when we talk about Nnamdi Kanu, we are not just talking about a man in detention. We are talking about the cry of people who feel unheard, the pain of a wife whose health is failing while her husband languishes in DSS custody, and the silence of leaders both at home and abroad who once promised solution but now look away. Picture this: a sick wife lying in bed, holding on to hope that one day her husband will walk free. Picture millions of ordinary people, ordinary Igbo people in Southeast, mothers, fathers, and children who just want peace, who just want to live without fear of gunmen, sit-at-home orders, or endless military checkpoints. Picture the lawyer, Aloy Ejimakor, standing outside a courtroom, voice cracking as he pleads with the world to pay attention to the slow death of justice in Nigeria. And then imagine the silence of political leaders who once said, "We will solve this politically." The silence of United Kingdom, whose citizen is being held, yet they are saying nothing. So that silence is louder than words, and it cut deeper than any wound. As this chapter of Nnamdi Kanu's story unfolds, one thing becomes increasingly clear. This is no longer just a legal case. It has become a test of leadership, a litmus test of leadership, a measure of political courage, and a reflection of how justice is defined in Nigeria as an entity. I watched the image of his ailing wife, Uchechi Kanu, battling illness while her husband remained in custody. It's more than a personal tragedy. It is symbol of, human cost of political inaction. The lawyers' laments, the silence of leaders, the insecurity tearing apart communities in the southeast, all of these things are frustrating, and it is very shameful that Igbo political leaders are yet to take a proactive action towards resolving all of those things. All their interest is 2027. So this is getting out of hand. Beyond politics and sentiment lies a simple truth. Justice delayed is justice denied. And the longer this continues, the deeper the fractures grow, not just within the southeast, but within Nigeria itself, because whatever that happened in the southeast reflects indirectly to the entire country. So history has a way of remembering things. It remembers not only those who acted, but also those who remained silent when those things were happening. The silence of Igbo leaders who promised political solutions, the silence of the other people from other ethnic groups. So as we close, let's remember that this story is not over. The Southeast awaits for peace, his supporters await for justice, and the world waits to see how Nigeria responds to this. Because when the final story is written, it will not just be about Nnamdi Kanu. It will be about whether Nigeria choose justice or choose silence. Let me be sincere and let me reiterate again. The only thing that can resolve Kanu's saga is a political resolution. Anything more than that is something that would just be a waste of time, and it would never come. So where does this lead us to? Where are we headed with all of this? Nnamdi Kanu's story is far from over. His detention remains a lightning rod for debate, with Igbo leaders pushing for political solutions, IPOB demanding for instant justice, and the Southeast grappling with insecurity every day. The involvement of Igbo American veterans and the outspokenness of Kanu's family and legal team keep the pressure on. But with the UK's silence and the Nigerian judiciary delays, the path to the resolution is very murky. One thing is very clear: this is more than a legal case. It is a story of a region's struggle, a family's pain, and a fight for what many believe is justice to them. What do you think? Should Nnamdi Kanu be released? Is the UK silence justified? Being it that we are talking about their own citizen here. Drop your thoughts in the comment below and let's keep this conversation going. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more updates on stories that matters. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged. Thank you for watching.